Hello everyone, Crash here, this is RTA Motorsports. Today we're going to finally look at the HP Reverb G2. Here we go.
Welcome to RTA Motorsports.
Alright everyone, if you're new to this channel, I would greatly appreciate if you subscribe, hit that reminder bell for future videos, reviews, as well as my live streams. But if you've been here for a while, you know I've been dabbling in VR since the very beginning. I've owned many headsets, if not, well, I owned a majority of the headsets and we've tried a lot more as well. And I'm going to post all those reviews down in the description box below in case there's a specific video you want to see. But I still actually own, let me show you what I still have here. I have my Pimax 5K Plus, a Goliath of FOV. I have my Samsung Odyssey. This is the first generation and probably one of the more comfortable headsets I've ever tried. And I have my granddaddy still, my Razer OS VR version 1.3. This was my first VR headset I actually purchased back when it was still just a developer's kit. Of course, I still have my Oculus Quest and Quest 2. But the reason why I'm telling you all this is because over the years, trying all these headsets has actually taught me basically what I like, what I don't like, what I feel works, and what I feel doesn't work in the VR setting. So hopefully that comes through in this review here so you can kind of get an idea as to where I'm coming from with a lot of these headsets. So before we actually go into my thoughts of the headset, let's go into some of the specs. So one of the main topics with this headset is the screen resolution. So on my Reverb Generation 1, or let's call it the G1, on the HP Reverb G1 review, a lot of questions I get lately are, how much higher is the resolution on the G2 than the G1? It's actually a trick question. So they both share the exact same resolution of 2160 by 2160 per eye. Although the G2 has newer displays where they try to eliminate the screen door effect through some technology. They also try to improve the colors, the contrast ratio, as well as eliminate that mirror that a lot of people are complaining about on the G1. Also, you're going to see the single element Fresnel lenses that give you an FOV of 114 degrees. And now we finally have that manual IPD adjustment. You can see the lenses moving back and forth there. So let's move to the bottom of the headset. You can see that manual IPD adjustment there. Right above it, you're going to see two little holes. That is the microphone array. Also, that's pretty common for a lot of VR headsets, especially in the Windows mixed reality realm, that they have multiple microphones there. You have the nose cone here. Let's go to the front. So you see the facial interface material here. It's a fabric material, very, very similar in design to the Valve Index as far as how it looks and the color pattern that's on there. The facial interface material does remove with some magnets and clips right back in very easily. Also, let's go to the front here. So you're going to see, being that this is a Windows mixed reality headset, you do have the cameras that are on the front, and these have a lot of work to do. They not only track your position within the space, but they're also tracking your controllers. If you look at the Samsung Odyssey is basically just like any other Windows mixed reality headset in that it only has the two cameras there for tracking. But the HP Reverb G2 adds to that with two on the side. So very similar to the Oculus Rift S, except we don't have the camera in the top center. So you have four cameras in total, which is a first for Windows mixed reality. On the side, the head strap design is pretty different than a lot of the other headsets that are out there, in that we don't have any sort of ratchet mechanism in the back, nothing to really cinch down really fast the head strap to our face. We have these Velcro straps on either side. So if you want to cinch the headset down, you have to pull the Velcro straps off and then pull, and they have a little bit of elastic there. Also, the head strap itself does have that nice little spring mechanism on the inside, so that way you could stretch the headband up and over your head. The headphones themselves are the off-the-ear radiators that we've very similar in design, if not the same design, on the Valve Index, and you can see you could swing them back and forth, as well as you could go up and down with them to really get them centered over your ear. And on the inside, there's a small little Phillips screw, so that way you could just remove the headphones if you have your own over-the-ear headphones that you prefer to use and you don't want to use these, although I don't know why you would want to remove these. And nice point on them is when you remove the actual headphones, the contact area that these headphones make with your headband is a nice flat sort of contact area. So although the contacts will be exposed, but it won't really impede on you putting headphones over. The cable itself is a 6-meter long cable, very long cable, and on the other end it has a USB-C connector as well as DisplayPort connector. In midline, I like to call it the breakout box since the Vive days, but midline there is a box where the cables split and there is a power connector there. If you don't have USB-C on your computer, they do include in the box a USB-C to USB-A adapter. If you don't have a full-size DisplayPort, they include a DisplayPort to mini DisplayPort adapter as well. So as far as the fitment on the headset, I do gotta say the facial interface material is absolutely awesome and very much reminds me of what we experienced with the Valve Index. And the reason why I keep bringing up the Valve Index, if you're new to this headset, they actually co-developed this headset, HP and Valve. Surprisingly enough, there was some things I carried over. One being the headphones, the other being some of the materials used. So this facial interface material does nicely conform to my face, and I do gotta say when I do have it on, that along with the nose cup design completely seals out all light. Some headsets that have very predominant sort of nose cups sort of digs into the bridge of my nose a little bit. This one here, I don't feel it touching my nose at all. I really enjoy the fitment of this headset on my face. Also, the headset itself is extremely light. Around some of the lightest headsets out there HP keeps making, and I do gotta say this one here, although it does seem a little bit bigger than the HP Reverb, the G1, it does feel as light as that one was. That headset reminded me back then of something that maybe Oculus would make, and again this one here reminds me again of something that Oculus would make again as well. But it's a very light headset, very balanced headset. And once you get it completely on your head, I do gotta say for my shaped face, it is very, very uniform in its pressure around the face. I don't feel any hot spots or anything like that. But again, I will note that when you're wearing anything, when you're putting on a VR headset, it's a very personal experience. Every person's going to experience something a little bit different with the fitment, of course, because everyone's face is a different size, different shape, different everything. So when you're wearing a VR headset, what I say may be comfortable to me may be completely uncomfortable to you. For example, the Samsung Odyssey is one of the most comfortable headsets I have ever worn in a long time. Maybe not quite as comfortable as what I'm experiencing with the G2, but still, this is a very comfortable headset. The Samsung Odyssey Plus was the most uncomfortable headset, and I could not get the fitment right in that headset at all for me. Now, I received a lot of backlash on that video for stating that because a lot of people thought that headset was extremely comfortable for them. So again, it's a very personal experience when you're wearing a VR headset, just like any clothing or anything else you may wear. What's comfortable for me may not be comfortable for you, so unfortunately you're gonna have to try it. But in terms of what I feel, this is an extremely comfortable headset. I do gotta say though, I do wish they included in the box some sort of maybe PU leather faceplate, because as far as comfortability, if you're wearing this and you're sweating quite a bit depending on what you're doing, if you go to share this headset maybe with a family member or maybe with a friend, unfortunately you're gonna have to wait for the headset to dry, because this fabric here does sort of soak up a lot of that sweat. It does come off very easily, but they don't include another one in the box. Maybe VR cover or some sort of third party does make something like this, you know, that you could actually maybe put a cover on or something like that. So that way the sweat does not soak into the headset, but that's something you're gonna have to research on your own. Same thing with the back cover here. This fabric along the back of the head strap does seem to sort of soak up a lot of the sweat. It is a very comfortable headset, but the fabric does tend to do that. Some of the other headsets that are out there do have that same issue. For instance, a lot of the original Vive had that sort of felt that did the same thing. But in terms of the Samsung Odyssey, we don't have any sort of fabric anywhere on this headset. This is all that PU leather material. So that way you could just wipe it down and you're not having any of that residual sweat going to the next person if you're in a situation that you're sharing. If you're not sharing this headset with anyone, then it's really not an issue at that point. Also, I do gotta say, being that the head strap, and you've seen me do this quite a few times, does flip up out of the way, as far as using it as a developer or a content creator or anything like that, it is an extremely useful tool to be able to just pop the headset on real quick, look around, make sure that your adjustments are correct, take it off real quick, and just be able to go in and out super fast, super easily without having to actually put the entire head strap on and make sure that the lenses are lined up with your eyes. It's a very useful tool, again, for content creators or developers to just be able to just stick this on your face really fast and look around and make sure everything is correct. The reason why I'm saying content creators in that mix with developers is because a lot of times us streamers will put a chat box up in the corner, and you want to make sure you have it in the right space so that way you could see what people are writing to you while you're live streaming, and you just want to be able to just quickly jump in and make sure it's in the right spot before you actually get going. So that's another super useful tool. All right, next let's go into the controller design and how I feel about it. So we are using basically classic sort of shaped Windows Mixed Reality controllers here. Now these controllers, they do use the tracking ring that we all come to know with Windows Mixed Reality, and you can see the lights that are on there. Although this controller here is unique for the HP Reverb G2, they widened the button box area so that way you could rest your thumb on the side. You don't have to necessarily rest it on the buttons. And they are identical to one another. Nice mirror image. We don't have any track pads here. We do have analog sticks. So that's nice to see. I do enjoy just normal analog sticks. If it's a controller, might as well let it be a controller and nothing too crazy. We do have the two buttons here for interacting with objects, the analog sticks that are present on both. We do have a trigger button on this side, as well as on the inside here, we do have our gripper button that we've come to know with VR headsets. On the bottom, we do have our Windows button as well as a menu button. I do gotta say the overall design of this controller fits naturally in my hand. I really enjoy the shape of it. Although the controller itself, the materials used does feel cheap. We do have the two AA batteries that give it a little bit of heft that we come to know with Windows Mixed Reality headsets. I think they even use the same model batteries there, and this does not clip in with any magnets. It actually physically clicks in, so you're not really going to be pulling down that battery compartment door very easily like some of the older VR headsets. But again, it just comes down to materials used, and the buttons just feel kind of cheap. When I turn on and off the controller, you could kind of hear, let's see if we could get this off, kind of hear the vibration motors for haptic feedback. Just everything feels hollow with this controller. The buttons don't really feel that great when you're pushing in on them. They're not mushy for these two buttons. They do have a little bit of a click, but it's a very short throw, and it's not really one that induces that much confidence. The analog stick feels just okay. The gripper buttons feel kind of mushy, and so does the trigger button. It doesn't really give you any sort of necessarily a good pull to it at all. And the control itself, just the plastic that's on there, everything just feels hollow. And again, I'm going to go back to that haptic sort of motor. The vibration feels like maybe like a third-party cheap controller from like the PlayStation 2 days. It doesn't feel that great. Again, when you're in an experience and you're immersed, these are things that you kind of lose sight of and you kind of forget about a little bit. But with this controller design more than most, it is a very comfortable controller, so that's fine. But just how cheap that haptic motor feels, it is something that I notice when I'm in my VR experiences. It's not the best feeling controller out there as far as materials used, and I kind of feel like they could have improved that a little bit. Okay, so we're inside the rig right now. We have the headset on. Not only am I going to give you my impressions, but you're only going to hear me from the microphones, from the headset itself, unedited. Here we go. Wow. There we go. So when you jump inside the car, again, I don't know if I said it at all. We're in iRacing, we're at Brands Hatch, and we're going to be driving the Audi TCR series cars. Absolutely fun cars. Front wheel drive, yes I know, but super fun. I really do enjoy this series. But the first thing you notice is just the clarity in this headset. Everything is super clear. And that just, especially within SimRacing, that's going to help you out big time. Because I still own headsets that it's kind of hard to read that relative down there. And being able to read it at a glance makes so much of a difference. It's going to make you so much more consistent. You're not going to be staring and trying to figure out exactly how far or how close someone else is to you. And being able to read your dashboard at a glance is so much more natural, because when you're driving, hopefully on the track, you're not staring at your dashboard trying to discern what it says. If that's the case, there's definitely something wrong. But overall, the clarity is there. Again, we're not at normal... Okay. What are you doing there, bud? We're not at normal human vision yet. That's going to be a ways to go. But as far as clarity for what we have now, I know there are higher resolution headsets out there, but this is the best experience I've ever experienced. Also, you know, they said they completely got rid of the screen door effect, and I would sort of agree with them. If you look at the sky, something uniform in color, that's when you sort of get the hint of a slight screen door effect, where you could kind of see the pixels a little bit. You more so get a hint for them. You don't really see the actual grid. There's like a slight graininess on uniform colored areas, and the only way I'm really seeing it is by looking at the sky. And it's super slight. It's not really anything that's gonna distract anyone and bother anyone, like the old school days of VR where the sub-pixel arrangement was, what was it, the pentile pixel arrangement. And that was actually, it could be distracting, especially when trying to read anything. But I think those days are gone. Here we go, green flag is out. So we're only hitting about 58 frames per second, almost 60, and I do gotta say it feels pretty smooth in the headset. Within iRacing, I don't remember iRacing feeling this smooth, and that guy just came right into me. Oop, 3 wide. The other thing that hits you if you have the HP Reverb, or if you tried that one, the first generation, is just how good they did with the contrast and the colors. For an LCD panel, and all the companies are pretty much moving to this LCD technology away from the OLEDs. But when we had the OLEDs, the nice thing about it was when a scene was black, it was naturally black because the pixels literally turn off, and that's what gives you your black levels in OLED. In this case, with LCD, you have a backlight. But the only time you really notice that backlight, that classic LCD backlight, is when you're doing anything that's like a horror movie or something like that, room scale, where you're just standing there with a flashlight and it's completely black in the room you're in. Or if you're racing, in terms of sim racing, at night and you're on a track with hardly any lights, that's when you sort of get that gray-ish appearance of a backlit LCD panel. But they really did a good job with this one. Amongst the best for these newer generation headsets that are out there. If you had the HP Reverb, the first generation, or if you tried it, you know it was kind of a gray wash experience. And we sort of gave it a pass because the resolution was so high and the clarity was pretty good. So it felt like a reasonable sacrifice, but this is, I'm having my cake and eating it too. I am really surprised how well this is running. Normally, I'd be feeling a little bit more of that stuttering indicative of a lower frame rate, but this is actually pretty good. Assetto Corsa Competizione, I tried it just before this one, and that was a little bit of a mess still. And I had to lower those graphical settings way down just to get any sort of smooth experience, but iRacing seems to be doing really well. Even though the frame rate is jumping around, I'm not really feeling it in the headset, which is the most important part. He moved over kind of violently there. The other thing that's really good is the lens design within this headset. I like these lenses so much better than the valve index. I kind of was rough on the valve index because of the cost and the market they were trying to hit, and just the experience I had with the lens design. This lens design to me is some of the best that are out there. Yes, we don't have the FOV or anything like that of what the Index or the Pimax has, but I'm having clarity almost all the way through the entire lens range in my eye movement. If I move my eye to the extreme ends of the lenses and like look at the mirror, I could see who's in the mirror. There's a little bit of blurring there. Because it's a Fresnel lens, but when I'm looking down real quick to look at my dashboard, it's not bad at all. It's actually pretty darn clear. So I could glance like I would naturally instead of having to move my head every single time. The sweet spot is pretty large on this headset. Just makes it feel so much more natural. And then with the sweet spot being such a good size, at least for my fitment, I find that I have much less eye strain. Just I feel like I could be in this headset for hours, and that's why I deal with the connection problems that we have here and there and everything like that. To me, it's kind of a worth trade-off in a way. I do wish that I didn't have the connection problems that I do, but... And the last thing I'll say, and this is just about VR in general for SimRacing, I do have a triple screen set up. I also raced with my Samsung CHG90 for a long time, obviously, the 49-inch. There is nothing like racing in VR and being able to fully, in your mind, understand the geography of the track you're racing on. There is areas that I've noticed there was camber that I never really noticed on a screen. Also, being that I have better spatial awareness and depth perception in VR, I tend to race closer and put the car in places that I wouldn't normally do or I would be afraid to do on a monitor, like sneaking the nose in between two cars or off to the left or really putting pressure on somebody. These are all things that I do when I'm on a monitor, but I don't feel like I do them as proficiently. They're some of the best. There's a reason why they carried him over from the Index to this headset here. This is a really good, really good headphone design. I feel like I'm listening to speakers that are further away than the headphones are, and I really don't have a sense for anything being around my ears at all, which makes the experience that much more immersive and natural feeling. But overall, when you're talking about off-the-ear radiators like these are, or like Oculus's type of design where it kind of blows the sound over your ears, there's normally some sort of sacrifice in the lower levels, in the low end of sounds, the bass response, things like that. I don't really get that with these at all. These actually still have really good low end. You notice that in like the AMG, a car that has some good heft and grunt behind it, you still get that sort of angry tone through the headphones without it feeling hollow, tinny, or like there's a lack of low end. Things that could distract you. It just feels natural. And it sounds really, really good. Okay, we're starting with the through the lens shot with the HP Reverb G2. You're going to notice that flickering that's only picked up by the camera. That's nothing I experienced within the headset itself. But I want you to pay attention to the dashboard as well as the cars closest to us, so that way you can kind of get an idea as to the clarity. The Samsung Odyssey, you could just see that disparity in the resolution. It being an older Windows mixed reality headset, it's expected, but you can kind of see where we came from and where we went to. The Quest 2 does a much better job in resolution, but you could do see, as compared to the HP Reverb G2, it's not quite as clear. So we're going to jump into some stills, and I want you to just pay attention to that dashboard a little bit further. These stills here are a perfect representation of what I experienced in the headset there. You can see how clear the numbers are with the HP Reverb G2, but when we go into the Odyssey, you really do get a sense for that screen door effect and its effect on your ability to read the dashboard, which could be extremely important from car to car. The Quest 2 does a better job, but it's not quite as fine, not quite as clear. You could see with these representations here as we zoom in just how much clearer the HP Reverb G2 can be than the other two headsets. Now, as we switch over to the Quest 2, you're going to see that it does an excellent job for what it's doing, especially being that it's going wirelessly over my Wi-Fi router, but you do get a loss of fine detail as well as contrast. So let's talk about some of the cons, because this headset here is not a perfect headset. There are some glaring things wrong with it. So first, let's go over the software. Windows Mixed Reality. So when this headset was actually being developed and they announced that it was being co-developed with Valve, I was kind of hoping that we were going to get rid of Windows Mixed Reality altogether and just the headset will run on Steam VR. Reason being is I'm not really knocking Windows Mixed Reality. I still have hopes that they will become something greater. The problem is typically speaking, whenever I have a Windows Mixed Reality headset, and I had the Samsung Odyssey, Odyssey Plus, the first generation HP Reverb, the HP Reverb G2, I've had quite a few of Windows Mixed Reality headsets. They all seem to be harder to run than any other headset that's out there that it's comparing to. So the Odyssey and the Odyssey Plus had a lower resolution, so that kind of helped it. But the HP Reverb and Reverb G2 have a much higher resolution than a lot of the other headsets that are out there on the market. And I do gotta say, the Oculus and Pimax, they really have their software down. They have this motion smoothing technology. Pretty much all of them have a motion smoothing technology built in, but Pimax and Oculus, as well as Steam with Valve, their motion smoothing technology seems to be on some other level than Windows Mixed Reality. If you cannot quite hit 90, they have it to 45, and some of them have a brain warp feature that I believe is on Pimax, where then it will still double the frames back to 90 using some like interpolation technology, and actually give you a very convincing experience, at least within the motion rig, that you're experiencing that 90 frames per second. It feels ultra smooth even in my Pimax headset, even in my Oculus. If I can't hit 90, I could kind of count on these technologies to trick me into thinking I'm hitting 90, and everything feels smooth. Within Windows Mixed Reality, it always feels like it's harder to drive the same settings. I always have to bring my settings down a little bit. And Assetto Corsa Competizione, ACC as everyone calls it, is not really a great example for this, because that title is very hard to run in VR almost with no matter what headset you're running. But the HP Reverb G2 is, I almost have to go to VR low. Now let's discuss that system back there. We are running an NVIDIA RTX 3090 GPU, and my CPU is an AMD Ryzen 5900X. It's not a light system by any means. That system is a beast, and I built it up to try to handle frame rate. Just gobble frame rate and spit it out, especially while we're live streaming, because I do single PC streaming. Even when I'm not streaming, I have a hard time running VR high preset on my HP Reverb G2 on that system, which is kind of a letdown. Yes, it has something to do with ACC as well, but my other headsets, I could run VR high and have a convincing experience without any problems. So I kind of feel like HP really needs to either get off of Windows Mixed Reality if they're going to be pushing headsets with this kind of resolution, or Windows Mixed Reality needs to step up and try to come up with some convincing technology inside their brand already to try to help us have a good experience. I'm sure they have the manpower. I'm sure they have the brains that are there to sort of get this software to the next level and really compete on that level. And that's kind of the problem, the biggest problem that I have. The other issue that we have is really, unfortunately, just getting the darn thing running. Now, this is a fault of the headset itself, not a fault of Windows Mixed Reality. I've never had so many issues trying to get a headset just to work before. I had to disconnect my Elgato Stream Deck from the inside of my PC, so that way I have another free PCI expansion slot for a USB expansion card on the inside of my PC, which is fine. I've made it work. We've been using it for quite a while now. No issues there having another USB add-in card. But the problem is depending on what updates may have happened or how long I haven't used my Reverb G2, sometimes it takes me almost 2 days to get this thing up and running. And I'm just jumping from USB port to USB port on my computer until one actually works. There always seems to be some sort of weird issue going on, and I have to go around and hunt to see what the issue of the day is to get this thing turned on. And the issue of the day that I'm having in this case, when we were setting this up for this review, it actually took me 2 days to get this running for this review here. And the problem was not the USBs this time, although I pretty much I unhooked everything, rehooked it back up to try to find a USB that would work. It was actually the display port. For whatever reason, plugging into the back of my 3090, it made me disconnect all my monitors, plug this one in, then reconnect all my monitors just to get it to work. And apparently the error 1-8, it asks you to disconnect all your monitors and reconnect them. Why are we still having these issues? I delayed this review for months. I pre-ordered this back in May. We received it back in November. I delayed it because I didn't want to complain about things that were just going to get fixed. And I thought these issues were big enough, and especially being that so many people are going onto the Ryzen platform, I figured that these issues would be fixed in no time. And it doesn't seem like these fixes are ever coming. We're just going to have to deal with them, that it seems, at the time of this recording. So that's probably my biggest problem, is just ease of use. I like to be able to plug in a headset, and this is not the fault of Windows Mixed Reality, because I could plug in my Samsung Odyssey and never have an issue. My Pimax, I plug it in, just go. My Oculus, that I have to use a third-party app, Virtual Desktop, to wirelessly play to that, works every single time. This headset, just plugging in the wires, gives me a hard time almost every single time. And then when I do get it working, sometimes I get 3 or 4, they call them like phantom monitors that randomly show up, and it could actually impact your system a little bit. I don't know. There's just some weird hardware level issues with this. I don't know if this is something that they could fix with a firmware. I'm not sure, but they really need to get this sorted out, especially for us X570 people that a lot of us are transferring over to Ryzen because of the cost of performance. They really need to get this figured out. And lastly, this is just a little bit of a con here. As far as the controllers and the tracking, I don't use this for room scale VR, but even then, with room scale VR and the addition of the 2 extra cameras, we have some big issues with controller tracking. Playing Half-Life Alyx, if my arms go back just a little bit, I still lose tracking of the controllers, and I'm noticing clipping of my arms back into view. And that is something that just sort of takes you out of the experience, unfortunately. And I was kind of hoping that that would be a thing of the past now with these 2 extra cameras on either side. It does seem to be an issue that is very predominant with Windows Mixed Reality, where you kind of lose tracking of the controllers when they go out of view. But I was hoping that was going to be a thing of the past, and it's not, unfortunately. We're still having that issue. And I mainly noticed this issue within Room Scale VR. It did come with a clip, and you see me messing with this cable a lot, for the back of the headset to clip the cable down to the back of the headset. Unfortunately, depending on if I spin or if I move a little too fast, or even sometimes when I'm sitting down and the cable's riding up my back a little bit and putting upward pressure, it constantly pops that clip off. That clip is just, I've actually lost it. I don't even know where it is now, and I'm going to just use some Velcro straps basically just to keep this cable to the back of the headset. It's just a shame that I think they could have come up with a more permanent solution or a better solution than a clip that just clips on the back of the headband that really doesn't take much pressure just to pop off anyway. It's kind of an annoyance there. So final thoughts on this headset. Do I feel you should go out and buy an HP Reverb G2? I know I kind of beat it up in the cons section of this video, but I do got to say there are a few things going for it that it's doing extremely well, and one being the visuals, and that seems to be, to me, one of the most important things when it comes to a VR headset. How good are the visuals? A VR headset's not useful at all if it's a smeary, low resolution mess full of pixel space, right? You want to be able to see what you're doing. I feel HP did an amazing job on this headset, really delivering on that experience as far as visuals go, and really trying to eliminate that screen door effect that we come to know with most other VR headsets. The screens look beautiful, the color accuracy is really good, the contrast is really good, especially in dark scenes. I find myself completely immersed in them more than any other VR headset using this type of LCD display, and a little bit better than even the Oculus Quest 2. So I do got to say, visually, this is an excellent headset. And also, the audio is something that can only be matched by the Valve Index, because they are very similar, if not the same type of off-the-ear radiators that you experience with the Valve Index. These headphones are great, and I don't even know why they gave us an option to remove it, although I appreciate that, because there is no audio jack on here if you want to use your own headphones. But really, these are amazingly good. Bass response is really tight. Whenever you're in a scene with a lot of shooting or anything like that, you really feel the pop and the explosions and everything like that. Overall, the headset itself is really good. Now, as far as sim racing is concerned, we have a unique issue. We're always looking off in the distance. We're looking at the brake markers. We're looking at the next corner. We're looking at the next incident that may be coming up, right? We're always focused. We're never staring at the interior of the car. We may glance down at our gauges to see what gear we're in, how much fuel we have. Those are just quick up and down movements of the eye. But we're always focused on the distance. Screen door effect and resolution directly affects what sim racers do, because we are staring at that pixel space in the distance all the time. With room scale VR, you could get away with a lot less. You're always focused on what's near you. You're grabbing the nearest object. You're fighting the nearest opponent. There are times, yes, you are looking in the distance in room scale VR, but for the most part, you're interacting with things close to you. So I do got to say, if you're looking for a headset that you're mainly wanting to do room scale VR for, I could honestly tell you the Oculus Quest 2 is a headset I use all the time for room scale VR, and it never ceases to amaze me, especially with virtual desktop. Pairing it to your PC and having those PC level experiences through your Wi-Fi router is absolutely amazing. Still blows my mind. It is a narrower FOV. It's narrower than 114, but I do got to say that is something that needs to be said. That headset needs to be talked about for room scale VR. Or the Valve Index. That is an excellent room scale VR headset, although extremely expensive for what it is. That is an excellent room scale experience, and the tracking is going to be superb. But if you're doing sim racing, there is something that needs to be said about this headset here and what it delivers in the audio and visual experience. And I feel that in sim racing, where you're looking in the distance, this headset, maybe aside from the Pimax AK Plus, which I have yet to try, this headset to me has not been matched yet. I would love to try other headsets of higher resolutions to really be able to compare it. But at the moment, I don't have anything that could really compare to it in the visuals. And for me, what I prefer resolution. Yes, I have one of the biggest FOV headsets that are out right now, the Pimax 5K Plus, and yes, I do know they have the 8K Plus and whatnot, but I do have headsets that can deliver that FOV if I really want to, and I love to because it's super immersive when I'm in them. But the HP Reverb G2 gives me that clarity that I really, really desire, to be able to see the brake markers in the distance and everything like that. So for me, if you're doing seated experiences, if you're doing simulation, racing sims, things like that, really think about what you're doing. If you're looking off in the distance all the time, then you want that clarity. HP Reverb G2 all the way. Yes, it's going to be harder to run. Definitely look at your system. See if your system can even handle it, because it does have a higher minimum recommendation than most other VR headsets. But if you do have a good system, if you do have a strong system, I would take a strong look at the HP Reverb G2. I mean, the clarity is just there, the colors, everything. I really do enjoy that headset. But when it comes to room scale, that's when I feel you may want to shop around and look at other headsets. All right, hopefully that was enough information where you can make an informed buying decision. If you have any additional questions, leave them in the comment box below. Again, check the description if you want to see any other reviews on any other headsets that I have done. Again, I've tried so many of them, but I have not tried them all. Pimax 8K Plus, I'm very, very interested in trying that headset and really comparing it as far as clarity goes. But everyone, I'm Crash. This is RTA Motorsports. Have a safe, happy, and healthy rest of your week. Have a good one.